Welcome to Biggest Spoilars, the destination for exclusive spoilers, latest updates.
The show opens with a renewal of Laura chancing Dalton's body in her box and screaming. She checks for a palpitation, and realizing he's dead, and cries, "No, no, no." I get the makeup is for the creep factor, but Dalton looks like he's been floating in the swash for a week. Laura recalls the pitfalls she made against him, pulls out her phone, and tries to decide whom to call for help. She ultimately makes a call, crying to someone that she's in trouble and is on Route 23. Laura gets back in her auto and heartbreaks behind the wheel. "May I have this cotillion?" At the Brown Dog, Christina and Molly are having drinks when Cody appears. Christina invites him to join them, and Molly gushes about how she can't believe he saved her pater. "Who's doing amazing?" Cody and Christina give one another a look when Jacinda walks in. Christina says she's going to go converse with her, leaving the would-be lovebirds alone. As Christina addresses with her at the bar, we learn that Charlie's is being torn down due to structural damage and that Christina is looking for a new opportunity. Back at their table, Cody asks about Molly's book exploration. She says she's been looking into country music and asks what type of country song he'd dance to. A song comes on, so he suggests this one and asks her to dance. She accepts, and as they sway, they peer into one another's eyes. Sonny's called into action. At the Metro Court, Gio tells his grandpa Sonny about his concession regarding Rocco, that Dante feels he wasn't looking out for his family, and he isn't wrong. He feels Dante is his father biologically, but that's where it ends between them. Sonny believes his son will come around in time. Gio doesn't want to put him in the middle, but Sonny says he can love his son and grandson at the same time. Back on the trace, Nathan suddenly appears to check on Laura as she's sitting in her auto. She gets out and explains she got a flat, so he asks if she has an extra. Just as he's about to open the box, Sonny appears. Sonny tells Laura he happened to be in the area and can help her with the tire. Fortunately, Nathan gets a work call and has to go. Sonny assures the officer he can handle this alone. Sonny asks Laura what they're dealing with. He also looks in the box. Will Jason come through for Britt? In her room above Bobby's, Britt tries to pull it together. Jason shows up and shares the news about Danny and Charlotte coming forward to help Rocco. Britt thanks him for telling her, but also he asks her why she had a crucial fob to Dalton's lab, and if it's affiliated to the 5 Poppies. Jason knows she's in trouble and wants to help, but he can't when she keeps him in the dark. Britt cries, "I've to know you'll put me first, that I'm worth risking my life." Jason promises she can trust him. They're intruded by Sonny's call, which Britt calls impeccable timing. Sonny tells him he needs his help, and Jason takes off, but not before he tells Britt, "Sorry." Back on the trace, Sonny tells Laura she did the right thing calling him, but now they must go. He says her auto will be taken care of. Brook, Lynn and Gio eventually have a real discussion. At the sanitarium, Lynn gets off the phone with Tracy, just as Michael shows up. She feels terrible about lying to Tracy about her own son, but she knows her presence then would only stress Olivia out further. Lynn shifts the discussion to Dante and Gio, and her heart is breaking for them. She tells him about Joe's concession and how Dante showed no empathy and said some awful effects. All she wanted to do was comfort Gio, but there was nothing she could do. They sit down, and Michael tells her that not all fathers and sons have a perfect relationship. He talks about his and his father's rough times and how effects got better with his mama's support. She wonders if she could do that for Gio, but admits she's hysterical of pushing him further down. Michael believes she'll figure it out and heads to the cafeteria to get her smoothie. Latterly, Gio shows up, and Lynn tells him that Ned is doing great. Gio says Michael called him and said he was demanded, but he doesn't know what for. Lynn believes Michael likely study she demanded him. Lynn tells him that Dante doesn't speak for her, and that she knows Gio was only trying to do the right thing by exposing beast testing when it went sideways. She says indeed when you have the stylish of intentions, occasionally people get hurt. That makes Gio suppose about her giving him up. She was trying to do commodity good, and there was no way she could have known what her mama and grandma would do. Lynn tells Gio that it goes for him too, as Rocco didn't tell him his plan, and he can't know what he doesn't know. She puts her hand on his knee, and he takes it in his hand. Chase provides Alexis with crucial information. Chase stops by Alexis' office just as she's about to leave. He tells her that he can prove Michael's justification is false. Chase explains that Ezra verified to him, drunkenly, that the last time he hired Jacinda as an companion was the night Drew was shot. Alexis says, unfortunately, it comes down to report, so Chase promises to get evidence. Alexis warns him it's not a slammerverse and could bring him his career if he goes up against someone like Ezra in the show's final moments. Chase tells Alexis he believes Willow's freedom is worth it. She again reiterates that this could bring him his emblem. At the sanitarium, Brook Lynn tells Gio that he's allowed to have regrets about what went wrong, but not to condemn himself for Rocco's choices. She says Dante is spooked for Rocco, was wrong about what he said, and she has no problem telling him that to his face. Gio says, thanks, Mom. They embrace just as Michael returns, smiling, seeing them connecting. I'm not crying, they're crying. At the bar, Molly rests her head on Cody's shoulder as they danced. In her room, Britt crawls into bed and cries as she thinks about the night from hell she just had. On the road, Jason shows up and fixes Laura's auto tire. He also gets in and drives it down. Sunny gets Laura back to her office, where she's in gashes. She says when she saw Dalton's body, it was like she set. She should have called the police, but she just stood there. Sunny says anyone who set up a body like that would be shaken. It's normal. Sunny tells her that her auto will appear in her driveway hereafter, completely detailed, and all substantiation of Dalton will be gone. Laura doesn't know if she can go through with this, but he tells her she must. Sunny says someone who didn't like the election results is trying to make trouble for her. She says, Ezra doesn't like them, neither does Drew. She also realizes this was Sidwell's doing. Someone give Jeannie a daytime Emmy for this coming time, please. The silence of the night was not peaceful. It was a heavy, suffocating blanket broken only by the hum of distant traffic on Route 23. Inside her car, Laura Collins's world had just collapsed into a nightmare. The show's opening was a brutal echo of that moment, a replay of horror that no amount of preparation could soften. We saw her, a woman of immense public poise and private strength, approach her vehicle with mundane frustration, likely thinking of a dead tire and a disrupted schedule. Then came the chilling discovery. The trunk yawned open, not to reveal a spare tire, but a specter of her own making. Dalton's body, contorted and lifeless, was a grotesque secret delivered to her doorstep. The makeup, designed for maximum creep factor, was unnervingly effective. He looked less like a recently murdered man and more like a creature pulled from the river depths after a week-long journey, a detail that amplified the violation. Her scream was a raw, involuntary thing, torn from a place of pure, unadulterated terror. The professional reflex took over first, fingers pressed to a cold neck, searching for a pulse that would not come. The absence of that rhythmic thrum confirmed her worst fear, and the professional crumbled into the personal. No, no, no. The words were less a denial and more a mantra of despair, each repetition a hammer blow to her reality. Her mind, reeling, became a chaotic slideshow of her own threats against him, words spoken in anger and frustration, never meant as a blueprint for murder. Now, they felt like a confession waiting to be read aloud. Panic, cold and sharp, clawed at her throat. Her phone, a sleek device of modern connection, felt like a live wire in her trembling hand. Whom to call? The police? How would she explain this? Her political enemies, Ezra in particular, would feast on the carcass of her career. Her family? She couldn't drag them into this abyss. Her mind, scrambling for a lifeline, landed on the one person in Port Charles who operated in the shadows, who understood the brutal calculus of survival. The call was made, her voice a fractured whisper cracking with tears. I'm in trouble. I'm on Route 23. Sliding back into the driver's seat, she collapsed over the steering wheel, her sobs the only prayer she could muster in that desolate moment. This was her baptism by fire into a conspiracy she never asked for, a hellish journey beginning on a lonely highway. May I have this dance? A melody of new beginnings. The atmosphere at the Brown Dog was a world away from Laura's private hell. It was warm, filled with the low murmur of conversation and the clinking of glasses, a sanctuary of normalcy. At a corner table, Christina Corinthios Davis and Molly Lansing Davis shared a drink, the easy camaraderie of sisters providing a comfortable buffer against the world's chaos. Their conversation was light, a discussion of future plans and past dramas, when a familiar presence shifted the energy in the room. Cody Bell's entrance was tentative, but Christina, ever the gracious connector, immediately waved him over. "Join us," she insisted, her smile genuine. Molly, her enthusiasm bubbling over, couldn't contain her gratitude. "I still can't believe you rescued my dad," she gushed. "He's doing amazing, thanks to you." A silent, loaded look passed between Christina and Cody, a look that spoke of shared history, unspoken understandings, and a complicated past that neither could entirely forget. It was a flicker of something old and unresolved in the midst of this new, pleasant scene. The dynamic shifted again with the arrival of Jacinda Perrin. Seizing the opportunity, Christina excused herself. "I'm just going to go chat with her for a moment," she said, a knowing glint in her eye as she effectively left Molly and Cody in a bubble of potential romance. At the bar, Christina's conversation with Jacinda turned to business. The news was somber. Charlie's, a local landmark, was being torn down due to structural damage. Yet, in Christina's eyes, this was not an end, but a new opportunity. She was already scouting for a new location, her entrepreneurial spirit undaunted by the setback. Back at the table, the air was thick with unspoken attraction. Cody, searching for common ground, asked about Molly's book research. "Country music," she explained, her eyes alight with intellectual curiosity. "It's fascinating, the storytelling in it." "What kind of country song would you dance to?" As if on cue, the jukebox shifted to a new track, a soft, swaying ballad with a gentle rhythm. Cody, seizing the moment with a quiet confidence that was new for him, gestured to the small dance floor. "How about this one?" Molly's acceptance was immediate, a smile gracing her lips. As they moved together, the world around them seemed to fade. It wasn't an elaborate dance, just a simple, intimate sway, but it was enough. Their eyes locked, and in that gaze was a universe of possibility, a tentative, fragile connection being forged over a simple melody, a stark contrast to the dissonant chords being struck elsewhere in the city. Sonny's called into action, a patriarch's burden. Across town, at the sleek and modern Metro Court, a different kind of family drama was unfolding. Gio, Sonny Corinthos's grandson, sat with the weight of the world on his young shoulders. He was confessing to his grandfather about his role in Rocco's confession, how he felt he had failed to look out for his brother. "Dante feels I wasn't there for him," Gio said, his voice heavy with guilt. And he's not wrong. The pain in his words was palpable as he laid bare his fractured relationship with his father. "He's my father biologically, but that's where it ends." Sonny, the patriarch who had navigated countless wars both business and personal, listened with the patience of a man who understood the deep, often painful, complexities of family. He offered the solace of time. "He's your father. He'll come around," Sonny assured him, his voice a low, steady rumble. Gio, not wanting to be a source of conflict, protested, "I don't want to put you in the middle." Sonny's response was firm, a testament to his expansive, if complicated, capacity for love. "I don't have to choose. I can love my son and my grandson at the same time." This lesson in familial loyalty was immediately put to the test. No sooner had he comforted Gio than his phone rang, a frantic, whispered call from Laura. The man of action was needed. He arrived on the scene at Route 23 just in time. Officer Nathan West, a good and diligent man, was already there, his cruiser's lights painting the night in pulses of blue and red. Laura, having composed herself just enough, had concocted a story about a flat tire. Nathan, ever the helpful public servant, was moments away from opening the trunk to retrieve the spare, a move that would have unraveled everything. "I happened to be in the area," Sonny announced, his arrival as timely as it was calculated. He smoothly inserted himself into the situation, assuring Nathan he could handle the tire. Fate, or perhaps a well-timed intervention from one of Sonny's associates, provided a distraction in the form of a work call for Nathan, forcing him to depart. Alone in the ominous quiet of the highway, the facade dropped. Sunny's demeanor shifted from congenial helper to strategic problem solver. "Okay, Laura," he said, his voice dropping to a serious, no-nonsense tone. "What are we dealing with?" He then moved to the trunk, his hand pausing on the latch. He took a breath, a man steeling himself for the grim reality he was about to confront, and lifted the lid. "Will Jason come through for Britt?" A plea for trust. Meanwhile, in her quiet room above Bobby's, Britt Westbourne was fighting her own battle with despair. The walls felt as if they were closing in, the weight of her secrets threatening to crush her. The knock on her door was both a relief and a new source of anxiety. Jason Morgan stood there, a pillar of stoic strength in her swirling storm. He came bearing a small piece of good news, a life raft of normalcy. Danny and Charlotte had come forward to help Rocco, a gesture of teenage solidarity that felt achingly pure amidst the adult world's corruption. Britt thanked him, but the moment of respite was fleeting. Jason, ever perceptive, cut to the heart of the matter. He knew about the key fob to Dalton's lab, and he connected it to the ominous shadow organization known as the Five Poppies. "I know you're in trouble, Britt," he said, his blue eyes intent. "I want to help you, but I can't if you keep me in the dark." The dam holding back Britt's emotions finally broke. This wasn't just about secrecy, it was about a deep-seated, lifelong fear of being expendable. "I have to know you will put me first," she cried out, the words raw and desperate. "That I'm worth you risking everything for. Can you promise me that?" It was more than a question, it was a plea for validation, for proof that she mattered enough to be saved. Jason's promise was simple, direct, and carried the weight of his unwavering code. "You can trust me." Their intense moment was shattered by the buzz of Jason's phone. Sunny's name flashed on the screen. Britt let out a hollow, bitter laugh. "Impeccable timing," she muttered, the universe seemingly conspiring to remind her that she was never anyone's first priority. Jason took the call, his end of the conversation terse. "I'll be right there." As he turned to leave, he offered a single, inadequate word to the crumbling woman before him, "Sorry." The door clicked shut, leaving Britt utterly alone. The fragile hope Jason had offered evaporated, replaced by the cold certainty of her predicament. She crawled into her bed, pulling the covers over herself as if they could shield her from the world, and finally surrendered to the tears, sobbing for the night from hell that showed no signs of ending. Brook, Lynn and Gio finally have a real conversation, the flicker of understanding. The hospital waiting room was a place of suspended animation, where time moved to the rhythm of beeping monitors and hushed voices. Lynn Quartermain had just ended a painful phone call with Tracy, the weight of her lies about her own son, Leo, feeling like a physical burden. When Michael Corinthos arrived, she confessed her guilt. "Tracy would be a rock right now, but my presence would just stress Olivia out even more," she sighed, trapped in an impossible situation. Her thoughts, naturally, turned to the other fractured relationship consuming her, Dante and Gio. Her maternal heart ached for her son. She recounted Joe's confession to Michael, her voice trembling with a mix of anger and heartbreak. Dante showed no empathy. "Michael. He said such awful things." She described the helplessness she felt, the innate need to comfort her child warring with the years of distance between them. "All I wanted to do was hold him, and there was nothing I could do or say." They found a quiet corner to sit, and Michael, drawing from the deep well of his own complicated history, offered a perspective born of experience. "Not all fathers and sons have a perfect relationship," he began, alluding to his own turbulent journey with both A.J. Quartermain and Sonny Corinthos. He spoke of the rough times, the misunderstandings, and the slow, painful path to reconciliation, a path that was often paved by the steady, loving support of his mother, Carly. "It got better. It took time, and it took my mom being there, helping us both see clearly." Lynn latched onto this sliver of hope. "Do you think I could do that for Gio?" she wondered aloud, the vulnerability clear in her eyes. But fear quickly followed. What if I push him further away? Michael, offering the steady support of a cousin and a friend, believed in her. You'll figure it out, he assured her before heading to the cafeteria, leaving her with her thoughts and a promised smoothie. Later, Gio appeared, summoned by a cryptic call from Michael. He said I was needed, Gio explained, looking confused and slightly wary. Brook Lynn, understanding Michael's meddling for what it was, a nudge toward healing, smiled softly. I think he thought I needed you, she clarified. This was her moment. She looked her son in the eye and began to rebuild the bridge between them. Dante doesn't speak for me, she stated firmly. She affirmed that she knew his intentions in exposing the animal testing were pure, that he was only trying to do the right thing when everything went sideways. Even when you have the best of intentions, Gio, sometimes people get hurt. She then, with breathtaking courage, turned the mirror on herself. That goes for me, too. When I gave you up, I was trying to do something good, something brave. I had no way of knowing what my mom and grandma would do. Her words were a balm, an absolution he didn't know he needed. She extended the same grace to his current predicament. Rocco didn't tell you his plan. You can't know what you don't know. It was a simple, profound truth that began to lift the burden of guilt from his shoulders. Tentatively, she reached out, placing her hand on his knee. It was a small gesture, but a monumental one. Gio looked down at her hand, and then, after a heartbeat that felt like an eternity, he covered it with his own. The physical connection was electric, a silent promise of a new beginning. Chase provides Alexis with crucial information, a gamble for justice. As shadows lengthened across the city, Harrison Chase made his way to Alexis Davis's office, a man on a mission. He found her packing up for the day, but the determined look on his face made her pause. He had news, critical news in the case against Michael Corinthos. I can prove his alibi is false, Chase declared, his voice tight with conviction. He laid out his discovery. A drunken Ezra, in a moment of unguarded carelessness, had confirmed to him that the last time he hired Jacinda as an escort was the very night Drew was shot, directly contradicting Michael's alibi that placed him with her. Alexis, the seasoned attorney, immediately saw the legal chasm they had to cross. Her face fell. Harrison, that's hearsay, she explained, her tone laced with professional caution. It's not admissible. But Chase, his sense of justice burning white-hot, was undeterred. Then I'll get proof, he vowed. Alexis's warning was stern, a motherly concern mixing with her legal expertise. She knew the power of the man they were up against. Ezra is not someone you take a swing at without being prepared for the consequences. If you go after him with this, and it fails, it could cost you your career. Your badge. In the show's final, tense moments, the stakes were laid bare in different corners of Port Charles. Chase stood his ground with Alexis, his idealism clashing with her pragmatism. I believe Willow's freedom is worth it, he stated, a simple declaration of love and principle that brooked no argument. Alexis, knowing the terrible price he might pay, could only reiterate her grave warning, her voice filled with dread. This could cost you your badge, Harrison. At the hospital, a small miracle of healing was taking place. Brook Lynn, emboldened by her connection with Gio, continued to offer him the unconditional support he so desperately needed. You're allowed to have regrets about what went wrong, she told him, her voice firm yet gentle. But you are not to blame yourself for Rocco's choices. She then did what only a mother could, she defended her child against his father. Dante is scared for Rocco, and he was wrong in what he said to you. And I have no problem telling him that to his face. The words were a shield and a sword, affirming her allegiance. Overwhelmed with an emotion he hadn't felt in years, the pure, uncomplicated love of a mother, Gio looked at her, his defenses completely down, and whispered, "Thanks, Mom." They moved into a tight, healing embrace, a long broken circle finally being closed. Michael, returning with the smoothie, paused at the doorway, a genuine, hopeful smile spreading across his face as he witnessed the profound connection. It was a moment of such pure, earned emotion that it was impossible not to be moved, a testament to the power of familial love. At the Brown Dog, the dance continued. Molly rested her head on Cody's shoulder, their bodies moving as one to the music, lost in a bubble of new romance and the promise of a happier tomorrow. In her lonely room, Brit's sobs finally subsided into exhausted, fitful sleep, the tears drying on her cheeks as the nightmare continued to hold her in its grip. And on the dark, empty stretch of Route 23, Jason Morgan, ever Sunny's most reliable soldier, efficiently changed Laura's tire. He then got into the driver's seat of her car, the car that had so recently held a corpse, and drove it away into the night, a phantom erasing the evidence of a crime. The final scene returned to Laura's office, where Sunny had delivered her safely. The adrenaline had faded, leaving behind a trembling, tearful wreck. When I saw him, it was like I froze, she stammered, grappling with the trauma. I should have called the police. I just stood there. Sunny, having seen this shock in countless faces before, offered a strange but necessary comfort. Anyone who found a body like that would be shaken, Laura. It's normal. He laid out the plan with calm authority, a man who made problems disappear. Your car will be in your driveway tomorrow. It will be fully detailed. All evidence of Dalton will be gone. Laura, her conscience wrestling with her survival instinct, whispered, I don't know if I can go through with this. Sunny's response was not a request, but a directive. You have to. He reframed the situation, pulling it out of the realm of personal crime and into the arena of political warfare. Someone who didn't like the election results is trying to make trouble for you. Laura's mind, sharpened by decades in the political trenches, began to connect the dots. Ezra doesn't like them, neither does Drew, and then it hit her, the realization dawning in her horror-stricken eyes. This was not a random act of violence, it was a calculated hit. This was Sidwell's doing. In that moment, Laura Collins transformed from a victim into a general preparing for war. The fear in her eyes was now mingled with a fiery, determined rage. It was a masterclass in acting, a journey through terror, guilt, and finally, resolve, a performance that undoubtedly deserved every accolade imaginable. The baptism was over. The war had begun.